Larry tried to kill me.
Yeah. I was so thoroughly disgusted.
I mean, think about it. Why does it make you special to do what you do?
Packers jumping around. They rush 4. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. Elliott can run inside the 10. Head first. He dives off the 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
There's also Brian Clady and Bob Miller. Third and long 3. Going deep. Oh, and he's got Thomas. Goodbye. Touchdown. Here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him 3 to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
And good Lord, the Broncos suck, but welcome to the show anyways. My name is Mundungus Creevy, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Glenn Hauser, Mr. Boggins, and Cam Parker. And you are currently tuned into the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Networks. We are a fan-led Broncos-based podcast filling you in on all things Denver Broncos, whether you like it or not, is basically how this turns out. So I hope you guys are having as wonderful of a week as I am after a horrible game on Sunday.
I'm having a good week after this song that's going on in the background right now. What is this?
I don't know. What is it?
This is my jam. Do you not hear I think it's your kid that's singing right now.
Yeah.
Riley, shut up! Got it. Shut that down real quick.
That was my song too.
I don't even know what song it was. Okay, so obviously the Broncos lose to the Titans 17-10. What?
Oh, Father.
That's going to be like a poster. Yeah, a poster for Father of the Year right there. Like, This is his father. Tell this kid to shut up.
You're lucky no one watches this.
Pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah, ugly game on Sunday. The first half was good. Second half was absolutely miserable. And we had a whole bunch of injuries. Graham Glasgow, Billy Turner, Jerry Jeudy, and K'Won Williams. K'Won Williams is the only one who's going to be, well, Billy Turner just got added. So 4 weeks for Billy and 4 weeks for K'Won. But other than that, Graham.
Minimally.
Do what now?
Minimally.
Yeah, minimum. And then Billy Turner and Jerry Jeudy are day-to-day.
Graham and Billy. Or Graham and Jerry. Sorry.
Yeah, Graham and Jerry. There you go.
You know who else is day-to-day? Broncos country.
we're minute by minute, dude.
Yeah. We need to be checked on it all times. Yeah. That's where we're at. You know, but we did it though. It's official. We are officially number 1 in scoring defense and number 32 in scoring offense. I think we deserve, you know how they do NFL honors at the end of the year for majority of the things. I think this should be one of them. I think that'd be neat. You know what
would the award be?
Most mediocre. I'd take it.
I wouldn't exactly call that mediocre.
You're number 1 in one thing and you're last in another. If you even those average out, you're in the middle.
See?
So most middle. That would be cool.
Most middle.
At least we'd win something.
Or at least the team that makes you want to gouge your eyes out.
Now, listen, if we're talking about winning something, so this just came across the wire a little bit ago. Aaron Patrick suing the NFL, the Chargers, and a bunch of others claiming that mats placed on the sidelines of SoFi Stadium earlier this year caused him to suffer a severe knee injury. Do we really think he's
get your money, big man? Like sure. I mean, I think out of everything that's on the sidelines, rugs are the least of my worries. But like the one time that John John Abrams, he just got released.
Yeah,
Jonathan Abrams just got released from the Raiders. That one time he ran into the camera vehicle with the giant tires. That was worse for me. I thought he was dead. But
was Booger McFarland sitting up top of it?
Yeah. Saying like, wow, he ran into this.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So it looks like he's filed in Superior Court in California, and he's suing SoFi Stadium, Kroenke Sports, and Entertainment, the LA Chargers, the individual Mo Green Hat, I have no idea who that is, ESPN and Romat Company for negligence and premises liability. He seeks unlimited damages, which means it exceeds $25,000.
Well, from what I understand, the way his contract is set up, he actually is going to lose a decent amount of money by not being on the active roster.
Yeah,
and then potential bonuses. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a settlement here.
Let's see. It says he claims he suffered season-ending ACL injury October 17th when his momentum carried him from SoFi Field into the sidelines, where he tried to avoid the TV liaison, aka Green Hat, and slipped on mat covering ESPN cables, causing injury. And he stands to lose at least $238,000 in salary because of the injury. So good on you, Aaron Patrick. You go get him, big boy.
It's one of those things where you're like, he's not wrong.
No, we saw it.
Like
how it was described is exactly how it happens.
Yeah. So settlement. There you go. Take your money. I don't know.
I mean, the momentum was carrying carrying him, in those directions, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, the momentum was carrying him, and I think, it's one thing, say Patrick wins it. I think if you are, ESPN or you're any of those, entities that have like all those cables, like lying around, I mean, you're going to have to take a long, hard look as far as, making sure that those cables are, in a viable location that, is not going to be slipped on or tripped. And I mean, so I don't know. I just, I think that, there's a lot of ways to certainly look at it as far as, with the type of settlement. So like if Aaron Patrick does win it, you do need to take a long look. And obviously I know that it's a pretty wide field, but like with all the wires that's laying on the field, like the one place you put it happened to be in a place that, helped get Patrick, a torn ACL and a season-ending injury.
Yeah. So to kind of, and I know this is a separate thing, but we talked about injuries. We talked about Aaron Patrick. We talked about Glasgow and Turner and Jeudy and Williams. A couple weeks ago, there was this big debate that kind of kicked off where it was, you have a lot of people getting injured this season. And players are saying, well, it's because I would prefer to play on grass because grass is more forgiving, whereas you have a lot of fields that are turf, and turf has no give. And so it's more likely you get hurt, I think is what they were saying. And then the NFL did a study. It was like, no, you don't get hurt more on turf than you do on grass. So should the NFL look into switching from turf to grass to try to avoid injuries? Why are there so many injuries this year? Is it training staffs? Is it turf? Is it 17 games? Like, why are there so many injuries this year?
I mean, I think anybody who's ever played on turf knows it sucks. Like if you can stop on a dime, but that isn't always a great thing. Like your momentum, as Cameron was saying earlier, will not stop. So I definitely have a higher chance of snapping your shit. Like straight up. But I think one, it would be a big financial thing that I don't know how every organization would be able to do that. They would have to redo everything, the irrigation, all that, like everything, which is a huge thing in and of itself. I also think that as long as it's maintained, that would be another thing, because I know that the Redskins technically had a field for a long time, and everybody complained about that field because there was a million people that tore their ACLs. Not the Washington. What are they now? Commanders. The Commanders. Sorry, I'm so sorry. The Commanders field, like, was a huge problem for a long time. The Oakland. Oh my goodness, there's too many teams switching. The Las Vegas Raiders. I'm becoming an old head now, where I refuse to say the new name. The Las Vegas
Brooklyn
Raiders, that
Dodgers.
when they were in Oakland had to play on the same field as the Oakland A's, which was a problem as well. So it's kind of a situation where, as long as you maintain it, it will do okay. It doesn't mean people aren't ever going to tear their ACLs, because they still are. I just don't know. It's at a certain point, it's like, when is it really worth it? Like, if you can actually prove that at the end of the day it causes this amount more than this other amount, then maybe, but it's going to be a lot of.
Well, look at how many Broncos were slipping in Tennessee. I mean, Jerry Jeudy got hurt on the first play of the game, untouched. I mean, the players were flopping all over the place, and that was natural grass.
You know, you were talking
basketball.
You were talking about the Raiders earlier, Boggins, and I mean, I think it's fair with the grass versus turf thing. But I will say the one thing that probably made it a little bit more prevalent for injuries there was the fact that you had the baseball field, right? And so with the way that was so unkempt, the way the field was so unkempt, you could literally see the baseball field in the stadium, and so I mean, the footing was just almost a given, and it was literally almost a matter of time before they needed a new stadium, and I mean, I don't know if it's actually like true, but there have been some stuff even with MetLife Stadium, Jerry Jeudy himself, another injury. But I mean, like, Jerry Jeudy, had the injury against the Giants that, had him sidelined for, a handful of weeks, and then what I believe it was Saquon himself had an ACL injury, at MetLife Stadium. So I think that, so I think there's some, movement to maybe the grass versus turf debate. And I mean, I think it's pretty fair. But granted, I mean, by the same token, freaky injuries are also, like, not one where, like, they're personally getting injured, I mean, like, it's just a freaky, way of luck, the way that it's just bad luck in the way that it happens. I mean, for instance, look at Jake Butt. I mean, the guy was a pretty incredible tight end coming out of college. And for the brief moment that he was with the Broncos, I mean, like, he was a pretty good tight end, but, like, the only thing that would derail his career here was that he had multiple ACLs even coming into the NFL. So, like, there's just times where, like, those freak injuries just happen, and it's just there's no way around it.
Yeah. So let's take a look at some happy news from another team, because we don't really have much. Jeff Saturday from the Baltimore Colts. I mean the Indianapolis Colts.
Shout out Boggins.
Shout out Boggins. Won his first game. Whoop whoop. Used all that high school experience to go ahead and pull that game out.
I'm sure he had a lot to do with that win.
It's pretty safe to say that the Las Vegas Raiders have been rich Bisaccia'd. I mean, basically, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, at least they got rid of Reich. I mean, he was awful.
Well, how pissed would he be? He was told to sit Matt Ryan, loses his job as a result,
right?
And then Saturday comes in and basically Ryan runs the game.
I mean, I'm surprised you guys haven't been talking about Josh McDaniels, who, I mean, Mark Davis has come in and said this week that he is very confident in Josh McDaniels. He loves the way he's running the team currently. And they went through a long process to find who they wanted. And so I don't think he's going anywhere this season, maybe, which is definitely what was thought about everywhere. And I thought was kind of a given, but it turns out it's not, because Mark Davis makes great decisions, just like
For
his
his
haircut.
opponents.
Yeah, no, yeah, his opponents and who his barber is. It is very interesting.
His barber's the only place he can get a Super Bowl.
That's true. Good one, Glenn. Write that down. It's very interesting. I honestly thought when Josh McDaniels was coming in that he was going to do better than he is currently doing. I thought, because I know a lot of Broncos fans are biased about Josh McDaniels and how he was as a head coach. As an offensive play caller, he is good, and it is still obvious now that he is a great offensive play caller, but a terrible head coach. So we are seeing that just kind of laid out in front of us for all of us to gloat over, and I love it.
Now it's like that running joke where it's like, okay, let's take every ESPN analyst per week that plays the Raiders and see who cannot beat Josh McDaniels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, again, like we're talking about, the cases where when you are a coach the second time around, sometimes, that's usually right at that point in time where people understand whether or not you're a good coach or not. And with this being his second go around, and it's not starting out the greatest, and they clearly did some things around him, like going out and getting Devontae Adams and handing a pretty hefty deal and, making at least the offense somewhat, manageable. But they just can't even get off the schneid. And so I think that for the Raiders, it's just pretty crazy. He just clearly has proven Nathaniel Hackett is probably in that same boat right now with his first head coaching job, but to where he's just a really good play caller and not head coaching material, and so both are really in the same boat.
Okay, so let's get into this stupid Titans game. Go one good thing: Jalen Virgil, first play, first catch, first touchdown, all on the same play. Finally.
Yeah, that was an audible too, actually. So
nobody wanted that.
No, it was exciting to see him get in there. And with the word today that Tyree Cleveland has been cut, it'll be interesting to see if Brandon Johnson ends up being in the on the 53 in some of these upcoming.
Can anyone explain that to me? I understand that they said he was a special teams genius or whatever, all-star, but what did he actually do that was good for the Broncos? I don't understand why
why cut him now.
They got rid of Hinton, got rid of Johnson,
because he couldn't catch a ball either. They're like, we have you for special teams. All right, you get this play. Not be stuck there too. Let's just drop it off a cliff. Let's just completely derail it because this didn't work in the first place.
But Mike's right. They kept him over Kendall Hinton to start the season. It was just a head scratcher, from the get-go. And I think now that Jerry's hurt and we're a little shorthanded on some wide receivers, they must believe in Johnson. They must believe in Caden Davis on the practice squad. It's
we need a slot receiver right now. So I expect Jalen Virgil to be in there. I expect Montrell Washington to be in there. So we're low. We're low, guys. We're low in record. We're low on
Jaguars. He's with Jackson.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say
he's gone.
Yeah, and I think I'm not to say it went into the move, but you almost wonder if the performance of Jalen Virgil sort of played into the into the role that helped get Tyree Cleveland off the roster. Not but I mean, with the injuries, it still doesn't explain the injuries. Like but I do wonder if we're just going to continue. Well, I mean, we should see more after the performance we saw from Jalen Virgil. We should see more of him. And I think we should also even see Brandon Johnson. And, these people that, not to be a Debbie Downer, but if we are entering the territory of Debbie Downer and the season is over, you should start looking at some of these players that, might actually generate some camaraderie and some relationship with Russ. Because if you are tied with him, through 2026, you might as well start figuring out what wide receivers and what weapons he is really comfortable around. And then the ones that he's not, I think you can read between the lines there.
I mean, do we even have a Z right now? Like, it would be Brandon Johnson, wouldn't it? Because you're not going to put Kendall Hinton out there. I mean, you don't necessarily want. I mean, you can, but not ideal, right? Kendall Hinton is probably going to be another one of those slot options. Yeah. So Brandon Johnson is kind of the only other option on the outside.
Yeah. And I know Virgil has size.
I was going to say we're getting Hamler back though, right? He only missed this week.
Yeah, but I mean, you'll have him outside sometimes, but you want that in the slot as much as possible. But we don't really have any other big body receivers outside of Brandon Johnson. So that's where it's going to be very interesting how they're going to. We're not going to have ideal size where we want it on the outside. They're most likely the rest of the season until Jerry gets back. Even Jerry, he's not your premier outside weapon, right? But
no, he's not huge. I mean, he's under 200 pounds.
Exactly. So, man, it's going to be interesting. Broncos, like all around. This will be. They get to. It's kind of like the preseason where you get to see all your depth players. Well, you get to see all your depth players again, like during the regular season now. So.
Yeah, with the amount of injuries that they've had, it's almost like the Broncos should just have signed I'm joking, but signed a waiver to just make the 90-man roster permanent for the season. The way the amount of injuries are mounted up.
So with Billy Turner going on IR, the Broncos are officially the most injured team in the NFL this year.
Dab on them.
That's like twice in 6 years.
Yeah, Kliss says that his article mentions that 26.6% of our salary cap is on IR presently. And I'm not seeing him mention this, but if you think about it, Justin just came off of IR, so he has a hefty salary. So that's a significant amount of money that we don't have access to their talents. It's crazy.
And one in particular that I think is the most that I've ever seen, I mean, over the years with, the Broncos is the offensive line. This is this season in general just feels like it's the worst that I've seen with injuries. But I mean, the offensive line, it's just left and right. I mean, like the Broncos encountered really bad tackles, bad tackle depth in the years, but it never seemed like it was this bad where you are, basically the only starter, that's played the entire season is Dalton Reisner right now.
Yeah.
Right, third string right tackle, third string center, second string left tackle. I mean, it's.
And so, kind of looking back at everything that's going on, like the first half of that Titans game, I had no complaints. I thought the offense was playing well. It seemed like they were clicking. Looked like we were gonna continue on with what we'd been doing in that second half of the last game, and then the second half happens, and Glasgow gets injured, and then Billy Turner gets injured. You have a bunch of backups of the backups on the offensive line now playing, and there was no adjustments. Like
status quo, you could say.
There was like we went away from the running game. I don't understand why there are ways that you can put your quarterback in a better situation behind a terrible offensive line. None of that happened in the second half. None of it.
Remember in the Jacksonville game when Graham came in and it seemed like everything changed when he came in?
Yeah.
When in this game, it seemed like when they put Gordon back in and benched Murray, the offense came to a screeching halt. Latavius was doing a great job in that first half, and for some reason he did not resume that position in the third quarter, and it seemed like it made a big impact. And once again, penalties and injuries are just absolutely killing this team to the point where it's almost impossible to get anything going.
Don't we lead the league right now?
Or in everything, anything negative,
It's actually
anything negative.
In terms of penalties,
anything negative, we're number one.
You know, in terms of penalties, like there was a stat, I don't know the exact stat, but like it feels like this is the worst penalized team since 2000, which is saying a lot because, you know, funny enough, the Broncos are playing the Raiders, and we all know historically the Raiders in the past have been one of the most penalized teams over the years. And so the fact that the Broncos, you know, at this rate with the first-year coach are literally the most penalized team, you know, probably since the 2000s, that just says a lot.
And Avatar brings up a good point. Like another good thing is that the Broncos ended Derrick Henry's consecutive games with 100 yards rushing. He had 50 yards.
Yeah. We had 4 false starts. I mean, we know if it's a false start, it means you know the snap count. You know when the ball is going to be hiked. And here we are still giving up 5 yards each time.
And we had
it's on a first down. All of a sudden, it's 1st and 15. I mean, it's impossible.
And all of the struggles were on the offensive side of the ball. The defense was lights out. There were a couple big plays, which, you know, we've had all season, 1 or 2 big plays where they end up taking the lead. But like, again, our defense is allowing an average of 16 points a game, and we're losing.
There was a ridiculous stat where if the Broncos averaged points per game was even less than 20, I think it was like if they averaged 18 points per game the entire way, they would be either 7-2. I saw conflicting stuff, but like 7-2 or 8-1. But like, I mean, that just goes to show you, like, just how good the defense has been. And then, you know, with Melvin Gordon, I mean, find someone who loves you, you know, as much as Nathaniel Hackett loves Melvin Gordon. I mean, like, it's pretty crazy. Like, you don't even have to be, I would say, a film breakdown guru to know that when Latavius is on the field, when they're running the ball, it's pretty evident who's the better running back, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
so how many times did the ball come out of Melvin's hands, Cam? Either on the field after he was tackled or
thankfully it never went to the other team, but
he was smiling too when it would come out. It was just like at a certain point you just realize you're like, I really can't hold on to this thing. So he just laughs about it.
Yeah.
Then he whines to the coach and the coach puts him back in.
I guess.
Yeah, I just like at this point, is there anything that we can even do? I mean, like Benjamin Albright was talking about it on Twitter where he was asked, you know, would Nathaniel Hackett giving up play calling help? And he's like, well, at this point, I don't think it would happen. Like your opportune time to change who calls the plays would be during the bye week, and that didn't happen. So like at this point, is there anything that he can even do to try to fix it? Or are we just going to suck the rest of the year and then get rid of him in the offseason?
Well, clearly he wants to keep things status quo. I mean, you know, we're like entering, you know, week 10, week 11 right now. Like, and you want to keep things status quo? Like, I mean,
it's like my kids talking to me.
I mean, like, we're talking about a coach that was talking about status quo like a few weeks ago, and like, you know, if you want to get, you know, your team back to 500 and actually play meaningful football and play, you know, because obviously you're not mathematically eliminated, but like if you want to get your team back in the contention to play better and, oh, by the way, coach better, get your head out of your butt and simplify things. You know, don't take shots, you know, when you are supposed to, you know, make it simpler for yourself. Like, you know, I don't necessarily, you know, hate quarterback sneaks in general, but one play I hate in particular was the QB sneak on a like long 3rd down and 1. You know, I mean, like, and
wasn't that when Wattenberg just came in? Because wasn't Wattenberg's first play a QB sneak?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so it's just like you're completely oversimplifying, or you're oversimplifying the fact that, or making it much harder on yourself, I should say. You're making it so much harder on yourself than it truly needs to be. And I mean, clearly he just doesn't know how to get it all fixed.
But he's evaluating a lot. If you listen to the press conferences, there's a lot of evaluation going on.
Mm-hmm.
He's evaluating injuries. He's evaluating himself.
Mm-hmm. He seems like a person that says evaluating out loud while he's evaluating.
Right.
He's like, I'm evaluating this right now.
Right. It's like he's under audit, but it's evaluation.
Yeah.
Evaluating, be evaluating.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, outside the
He's
NFL, outside,
apparently.
right? Like, outside of sports, like if you're at a job and you're failing at your job, you don't do the same thing. You change something to try to fix it. Nothing's changing. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. If it's not working, why are you sticking with it?
I mean, you can't just change everything just because it's not working at first, especially with stuff like this, because you need to build some sort of chemistry. You need to, like, they're still learning the offense, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying he's not doing poorly. Like, it's not good. Not good at all. I'm just saying, like, it takes time to learn an offense, but it's like, there's no, it's just so interesting because it's like, you don't really know at a certain point how much is Russ and how much is Hackett. And like, Hackett's going to take a majority of the flack as far as like job wise. Like, he's the one that's going to get fired. Russ isn't going to go anywhere, obviously. Right. Russ will take the crap in the media. So now when Hackett is gone, now what are you going to do? You have to build around Russell Wilson. You have to, like, I saw the report from Albright that his, like, early guess, if he had to guess today, was actually bringing in Dan Quinn, like they were going to do in the first place, and then bringing back Schottenheimer, that Russ already has rapport with, right? Already has chemistry with, someone that they already know each other's offense, and so they can actually work together. And the hope, also that Evero will stay on. That's a big if.
Well, and that's what he said, was that Quinn is the type of coach that would ignore what he normally does and do what's best for the team. And so he thinks that Evero would stay on with Dan Quinn.
It's very possible, but that's what I'm saying, is like, you kind of have to build everything around Russell Wilson because you don't have a choice now, which is kind of scary to think about, that you're putting all your eggs in this basket now, where if we go down the road and it doesn't work out and you have to find another quarterback and you've schemed everything to Russell Wilson, now you kind of have to refigure everything out. That's when like real rebuilds come along. And it's just like, it makes you a little nervous, and you're just hoping to God that whatever it is that Russell is slipping on clicks whenever this coaching change happens, which will most likely be at the end of the season. I don't see what would be the point in, like, if you got rid of Hackett right now, it wouldn't do anything. Right. Maybe some, I don't even know, like, because the team, I think, really likes Hackett, so I don't think it would be like one of those like morale boost things where it just turns into some, like, an initial win and then losing after that. I think it'll just be essentially the same thing.
Yeah, and the culture around the Broncos is definitely better than it was under Fangio. Like, it seems like the players want to play for Hackett. It seems like they're fighting for him. But, like, again, something has to change. And I know that Pete Carroll is a good coach, but if this is what he had with Russell Wilson and he was covering all that up, he's automatic Hall of Famer. Because, good God, we were getting a lot of bad from Russell Wilson.
And how can he cover it up?
We're getting a lot of bad. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this can't be the Russell Wilson we got. It has to be a mix of not understanding the offense and Hackett not playing to what Wilson is good at and trying to fit him to his offense. I don't know. There's got to be some reason as to why we're getting this Russell Wilson and not the Russell Wilson we're used to.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just, well, I mean, it's an everything bagel. Like, I've used that analogy a lot, but I mean, the offensive line is not doing, or holding up in its end of the bargain. Obviously, Nathaniel Hackett is not holding up his, and Russ is not playing well. I mean, it is safe to certainly admit Russ is not playing well, and it looks like he has regressed in that sense. Like, it does look like he's regressed, but one of the ways I would say he's regressed is because, like, the offensive line, is just terrible. I mean, like, it's just looking so bad. Now, granted, you've got fourth and fifth stringers in there. I mean, but at the same time, like, it's just bad. And I think Russ is just putting himself into dangerous territory of, okay, I have to scramble, I have to hold on to the ball, as long as I can, try and make a play. And then when he makes a play, he heaves it downfield because he feels like he's, wants to make a play. And so it's just like, trying to make things more harder on yourself than they need to be. So it isn't just Hackett, but it's also Russell Wilson and company. Like, you're making it so much harder on yourself because you feel responsible.
It's the perfect storm, right? Russell Wilson has always been known for looking for that deep shot, that big play on the sidelines. Coming out of Seattle, everyone knew that. That's just what he did. And so some of the factors in him getting sacked previously was doing that, where he would scramble around, and like, his offensive line wasn't good, but he would scramble around, either get himself sacked that way, or he would just wait too long to try and wait for something to develop downfield. Mm-hmm. Like we saw last week, he was just chucking things when he had no other option. Like, it was rough to watch. Some of them luckily got deflected, where it was just like, thank God he didn't actually get that ball off, because that would have been a big problem. And so when your offensive line is broken like ours is, like, we didn't have the best offensive line to start off with, and now that it's even worse, that just makes it an absolute perfect storm. It's just like he has no time to be able to hold on to the ball, to wait for those to develop. And when you try to force a new scheme, when he's learning a new scheme, and all he's thinking about is like, well, I'm not quite sure here, so I remember I have a 9 route going down the sideline right now. I'm just gonna chuck it, and then all of a sudden the defensive lineman is in his face. So it's just, man, it's not a good thing to watch and be excited for at all.
No,
well,
and I was. Go ahead.
I was going to say, look how beat he was in the press conference. I mean, he still had his uniform on. He was not typical Russ. He was not, he was talking about playing for each other, playing for pride. I mean, we're 8-9 games into, or 9-10 games into this season, and we're talking about playing for pride in a 17-game season. Like Boggin said, it is a perfect storm, between a coach that is clearly in over his head. Russ is struggling. These crazy injuries, a porous offensive line, and then the most undisciplined Broncos team I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is just, you're facing third and long just a huge percentage of the time. I mean, what offense succeeds under those kind of conditions?
Yeah.
But the penalties alone are the killer, and they have not improved at all.
This is not and granted, I don't know if it's actually at that point now. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it, because it certainly seems like it could be. But I mean, I think I'm not talking schematic, of making things right if you're Nathaniel Hackett, but one of the most important things that I would do if you're Nathaniel Hackett is to check in with the team and make sure your morale of the team is good right now. Like, how is the confidence of your football team? Because especially, I mean, Mike knows living in Nebraska, but it's like the one thing with the 2021 Nebraska Cornhuskers was, like, they were losing every single game by one score. And that's literally what is happening or that is what's happening currently with the Denver Broncos right now. Every single game that they have had, they've lost by one score. And
why are you going to bring more sadness into this with the Nebraska Huskers?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
You have to bring more sadness in here,
Well,
Cameron,
I could say that for Iowa Hawkeyes too.
Sitting in here talking about
you said
the Denver
my Iowa
Broncos.
Hawkeyes.
I'm sitting in here talking about the Denver Broncos.
No.
Now you bring up the Cornhuskers. I'm yelling at my kids to shut up. Like, what else do you want me to do?
Cameron just said my Iowa Husky.
No, I didn't say my.
Yes, you did.
You did say you said that I'm a Hawkeyes fan.
No,
you did too. Play that back. Play that back. Are you thinking
I would not be thinking of the 6'5" Nick Kendall.
You know damn well who my team is.
Yeah, it's Michael Penix Jr. of the Washington.
That's right,
Huskies.
it is.
Yeah, who beat Oregon Ducks.
That's right, they do. Hey, I needed some happiness in my
Yeah, Cam, let me save
Hackett brought it to me.
He doesn't need to go check on the morale of the team. It blows. Okay. Nobody's happy about what's going on. The expectations were so high. And I think that's what makes this even more defeating this year than in the recent years, is that when we were looking at Drew Lock, when we were looking at Teddy, when we were looking at Paxton Lynch and these various other quarterbacks, we had fooled ourselves into this is going to be the year. But you have Russell Wilson, and his history has been so good. And when you talk about Pete Carroll being able to hide his deficiencies, I mean, we saw the product on the field, and even as recent as last year, I mean, his passing rating was in the top 5 last year. So it's not anything that could be hidden. And we were all right to be excited about what's going on. But I mean, I think that's what makes this one sting a lot more, because we were talking Super Bowl and with legit possibilities. You know, we were talking the greatest division on paper in NFL history, and just across the board, there could be potentially 3 coaches out of the 4 that get canned at the end of this year in the AFC West.
No, I know. I just know it's just something that I would just be thinking of, because it's like, you know, when those things start adding up, and especially for the veteran players that have been here, like in particular the defense, you know, like you don't want those kinds of things to, you know, add up mentally. You know what I mean? Like, and so like that's just the only reason why I say that, because like, but yeah, because it feels like they've been truly carrying the load for this team for 6 years, and you know, and especially when you finally go out and get a you know, franchise quarterback, you know, I mean, and maybe that conversation is too late for that, and that's a fair point. I think is like maybe it's just too late for a conversation like that. And a conversation like that should have happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah. You know.
Well, and like I'm one of those fans. It's like I believed up until this game that, like, you know, looking at Hackett's past, you know, Matt Ryan struggled for a little bit and then he got it figured out. Aaron Rodgers struggled for a little bit, then he got it figured out. We just got to give him some time. It's like he'll be fine. They'll figure it out. But I think this game was a turning point for me, because it's like, you look at the offensive line, and I'm not the most knowledgeable guy about like the inner workings of football. I'm not, but but like
noted. Yeah.
Like you have a terrible offensive line, and you don't adjust anything. Like you still have slow developing plays that you're calling, and you don't have the line for that. Like to me, it's just I think at that point it was like, okay, like I'm done.
You know what's really funny is going through these stats and just being like how weird some of them are, and just like how like some of them make sense, some of them others don't. Like if you were to look at these stats like earlier in the year, you just be super confused.
Mm-hmm.
Like our leading rusher was Latavius Murray, and you're just like, why is Latavius Murray on this team? Or Jalen Virgil is our leading receiver with 1 reception for 66 yards. You're just like, I am so confused. And yet we led possession the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. By like almost 10 minutes. But we were also sacked 6 times for 38 yards. Oh, okay. It's just a mess.
Our 3 running backs, 2 out of the 3 weren't even on the team 3 weeks ago. I mean, but Cam, just going back to mentioning the running backs, Cam mentioned the 3rd and 1 quarterback sneak. When you have a Latavius Murray, a guy that is so huge that when Susie Wargen was on with us, she was able to spot him in a crowd to go interview him because he's so enormous. and we're deciding for Russ
on a long one, and
he gets hit 20 times in that game, but we're still going to run him on that was a long one for sure. It just it just is baffling, these decisions, and the inexperience of the staff. We were all worried about that, and it couldn't be more evident. It was like there was a pact that the first guy to get a head coaching job would then hire his buddies, and then we have this whole group of people. Like, for Mike Munchak to be not a coach on the staff makes zero sense. It's just all the decisions it's just very disappointing.
Which is hilarious, because we've hired how many extra coaches to help with those decisions,
right?
But yeah, at least going into this week, it's Raiders week, and they're worse than we are, I think.
But maybe we say this every time, and they still beat us. Like, what are we doing? Every time we talk crap about the Raiders, and they somehow eke it out when they're trash. I don't know anymore. Like, maybe we'll win. I don't know. Is Josh Jacobs healthy? Because if he is, he'll probably run for 300 yards on us, and that'll be his like.
Well,
God, I don't know.
Well, Mike and I went to the Raiders Broncos last year, and the Raiders will not have, like they did last year, they will not have Henry Ruggs, they will not have Darren Waller, and they will not have Hunter Renfrow.
Well, so there's Josh Jacobs. That's enough.
Yeah, that's all they need is Josh Jacobs, and I don't know their will to live.
Well, and they won't have Devontae Adams, because he'll be covered by PS2, so you can't throw to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still Devontae Adams, so I don't. You know what I mean? Like, he'll get his. He'll get his, unless he gets.
You'll get yours.
He'll get yours.
In the battle of we suck, who comes out sucking less this week?
I mean, not
exactly.
Well, I was gonna say, as far as like, not to talk about the early game or the early talk about the game, but I mean, like, I am excited about Devontae Adams and Surtain round 2, because it looked like, I mean, Surtain for the majority of the game and all of the game, like, was doing quite well on Adams. And so it'd be interesting, to see if Carr does that again, or, is he going to rely on Mac Hollins? I mean, like, and especially with no Hunter Renfrow again, and in that Raiders game that the Broncos had in Allegiant Stadium, I don't think Renfrow was there. So, I mean, Hollins was like that second wide receiver, basically. And so I think they did have Waller, but Waller was kind of like ineffective and really wasn't doing a whole lot. So, I mean, you're not really missing anything there. It's just about containing Josh Jacobs and,
that's making,
yeah. So that's really just pretty much it. And then I'm not even going to talk about the offense. I mean, yeah, we've beaten a dead horse at that point. Pun intended.
Well, and that's the thing that's like so aggravating. Like, we went into the Titans and we're like, we just stopped Derrick Henry. We're good. We're golden. No problems. We stopped Derrick Henry. We still lost.
They've got no wide receiver.
That wasn't on. We ran for 65 yards. Jeffrey Simmons wasn't even there, my guy. That's a problem. I don't even know how we won time of possession. That doesn't make sense. It's just all confusing. I hate everything.
I hate everything.
All of it.
Watch this be the game. Watch this be the game we score like 42 points.
Well, now you jinxed it, and it's not going to happen.
Who knows anymore? Honestly, I mean,
I don't even want to know.
With this season, who knows?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna I don't know if I honestly care if we win or lose anymore, because honestly the season is kind of a wash, which sucks, because we're halfway through, so just definitely in draft mode. already. That's for sure. I mean, I've been in draft mode for a while. I'm always in draft mode, but
well, that's why you're
just be more vocal about it.
That's why you're sitting there in the 49ers Chargers game going like, all right, now who do I really want to win this?
That's
game?
what I'm saying. I like at this point, it's like Chargers are already they were like 2 games ahead, I think, at that point. And it was just like, I wouldn't mind a higher draft pick,
Yeah.
So
but quite honestly, you don't want I'd like the Broncos to win just enough that the Seahawks don't get some kick-ass pick.
Because like when we were talking about who won that trade at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh my gosh, the Broncos won that trade. Of course,
you have the 31st and the 60th.
Of course, the Broncos won that trade. We didn't, guys. We didn't win that trade. It's rough. It's real bad now. I like tried to be optimistic for a while, especially living in Seattle, watching people talk crap, and I'm like, you know what? You wait, sucker. I've waited and I have not got anything out of it. Sadness. That's what I've got.
The scene from Madagascar. Just smile and wave, boys.
Pretty much.
And wave goodbye.
Yeah, and that's gonna about
well,
do
thanks
it
for listening.
And for the season. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so you can know when we post, when we go live. Check out our other podcast, the Cluster Puck Podcast, which goes live every Monday.
It's a great time for like a Manscaped sponsor.
Right? It'll be perfect. The Cluster Puck covers everything Colorado Avalanche. You got the Wild Wild West on Wednesdays. You got Broncos Breakdown with Bill on Fridays. You got the Neighborhood every game day. That's gonna I'm just trying to speed through this, so I'm stopping Manscaped in my head. Okay, bye. We'll talk to you later. See ya.